Now, India is considered as a non-English speaking country. So every student that's going to study in a foreign country, the university should know that this student is capable of reading, speaking, listening, and writing in English.
Right.
Then they need to put in more efforts. So then the preparation time could go up to as high as 3 to 6 months.
Okay.
So depending on what the students' requirements are, we could design a program and decide on the time that they need to give in order to prepare for it. Don't shy away from giving the exam. Give the exam. That's the advice. So higher the score, the better your chances are of getting scholarships. Sometimes they kind of hold themselves back. अरे ये exam के लिए कौन prepare करेगा? I can't go abroad if I don't give these exams, so let's not go abroad.
The fear of that exam might stop so many dreams. Study abroad is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And today we are going to talk about the first step, your starting line on this journey, the entrance exams. Welcome to the Big Leap with Study Smart, and in today's episode we are going to cover the big 4 entrance exams: IELTS, TOEFL, GRE and GMAT. To explain this, we have with us the founder and managing director of Study Smart, Mr. Chetan Jain. Welcome to the episode, Chetan.
Looking forward to it again, Apoorva.
Yes. Chetan, on the Big Leap, we've spoken extensively about, building a strong profile, how to shortlist the right courses, universities. And I think now it's time for the preparation to begin.
Right.
So in that direction, what are some things about the entrance exams? I'll divide them into a couple of categories. We have IELTS and TOEFL, we have GRE, GMAT, and we have SAT.
Right.
So what are some essential must-knows for every student preparing?
Right. So when a student is deciding to study abroad, like we say, he needs to shortlist the country, shortlist the university, shortlist the course. Depending on what he is shortlisted, he needs to be aware of what are the exams that they need to give. Not every country is the same. Some countries require to give you a GRE, GMAT. Some countries require IELTS, some require TOEFL. So firstly, they need to be clear about what country they're going to do. And for that particular country, what are the preps that they need to do in order to give the entrance exams. Because every country would have a different entrance exam requirement.
Okay. So can we go a little deeper into each of these exams?
Sure. First, let me categorize for you what are the types of exams that are there. So firstly, you have something called English proficiency test, which a student needs to give in order to prove his English speaking abilities. Now, India is considered as a non-English speaking country. So every student that's going to study in a foreign country, the university should know that this student is capable of reading, speaking, listening, and writing in English, right? So the most popular one, of course, is IELTS, which is a proficiency test. But apart from IELTS, there's TOEFL, PT, which are also there, which are very similar. They're all the objective of all these 3 exams is the same, to prove the proficiency levels of the students in terms of their English, right? Then you have something called aptitude tests, which are basically to see the students' abilities in terms of their analytical thinking, in terms of their academic skills. So GRE, GMAT are the more popular ones for postgrad students, and SAT and ACT are the more popular ones for undergrad students. So broadly, these are the 2 categories of entrance exams or tests that the student has to give in order to study abroad.
So just a thought here, you spoke about IELTS and TOEFL or even PTE for that matter. So what if a student is applying to a non-English speaking country like Germany, for example? Would they still have to give these exams? Yeah,
so Germany, if they're applying for an English speaking program, they would need to. But if they're applying for a non-English German taught program, then they need to have German language proficiency. So language proficiency is important either which ways, whether it's English or not English.
Okay, so that's one thing, that they want to know your ability of grasping the course in whatever language you're pursuing.
Correct.
Okay. These language proficiency tests that we just spoke of, what are they actually?
Okay. So they are basically exams designed to test 4 major skills of a student. Can he listen and understand English? Can he speak in English? Can he write English? And can he read English? So they're broadly broken down into these 4 components, and the scores also that the student gets on these 4 components and a combined score. Right? So they're designed in a manner where they can check on all these 4 skills. Typically, the exam is between 1.5 to 2 hours. There are computer-based exams as well. The student can give a written exam as well, and the dates are very frequently available. So it's not a lot of planning that the student requires to do for it. Practically, there is 4 to 5 dates available every week for the student to go and give the exam. Of course, there are specific centers where the student needs to go and give these exams.
Okay. And are there, any tips that when should I start preparing? How should I prepare? Any of this that we can also go into?
Sure. The amount of time that he needs for preparing for this exam depends on the student's background, right? So if they come from an English speaking background where they've done their entire schooling and education in English, then the preparation time is very less. They can easily prepare for the exam in say 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay.
But if a student comes from a state board or say vernacular background where they've not done predominantly of their education in English,
Right.
then they need to put in more efforts. So then the preparation time could go up to as high as 3 to 6 months.
Okay.
So depending on the student's background, they can figure how long the preparation needs to be. With most training centers who provide training for these exams would do an assessment for the student to see where they stand.
Okay.
And depending on the assessment, they would say, okay, how much preparation you need, right? So when we deal with our students, we would get them to give what we call a diagnostic test to kind of evaluate what their levels are and what skills they're lacking in. And then accordingly, we would, tell them, okay, this is the kind of training you need to take. And because our training is modular and it's a common thing with most providers, we can focus on certain modules if they're weak on certain modules. So you'll find a lot of students who are very good with speaking but may not be very good with writing. Okay. You have students who are very good with reading, may not be good with listening. So depending on what the students' requirements are, we could design a program and decide on the time that they need to give in order to prepare for it. And moreover, it's a practical exam, so it's more about practice as well. So you can't teach English to someone in that short duration.
Right.
It's more about preparing them for the structure of the exam, because it's time based, what questions to answer, how quickly they need to answer. So it's also about practice. So a lot of mock tests are available. Typically, I would advise every student to take at least 3 to 4 mock tests before they give the actual exam.
Okay. So if I had to summarize, I think first of all, establish a baseline where you are starting off.
Correct.
And then prepare in a very personalized manner. Prepare based on your strengths and your weaknesses, so that overall you can excel in to the best of your abilities.
Correct.
Chetan, following up a little bit on the language proficiency part of it, what are some pro tips you can give students so that they prepare a little better?
I think firstly, the students should be aware that IELTS or TOEFL is one mandatory exam. Irrespective of which country you're targeting, whether it's a UK, US, Australia, Canada, they all require the proficiency test. Okay. A lot of times students assume ki waiver mil jayega. There are some countries and universities that give a waiver, but we still recommend giving the exam because it will reflect very positively on their overall profile. So number one, don't shy away from giving the exam, give the exam. That's the advice. Secondly, there is a lot the students can do in order to excel in the exam, because higher scores can also open up doors for them for scholarships, right? So today, when a lot of universities are looking for scholarships or are looking to take a decision on whom to give the scholarship, they take the IELTS score into consideration as well. So higher the score, the better your chances are of getting scholarships. It also helps you improve your overall communication skills. Okay. You're going to an English speaking country, your communication is going to decide whether you will be successful there or not. Right from whether you get part-time jobs, your ability to talk to people, communicate with your professors, everything will depend on your communication skills. So IELTS preparation is also going to help you brush up your communication skills, because many of us would have stopped studying English after maybe 11th or 12th grade. Right. A lot of postgrad students who are going for postgrad courses, they would have not studied English as a subject for a very long time. And today, with the access to technology, we use abbreviations, our grammar is all over the place. So it's a good idea for them to go back to the basics, fundamentals of English, prepare for the exam, give the exam and do well in the exam, because it's going to help them on other aspects as well. Okay.
Any other cultural ways in which they can continue to learn, whether it's through literature or art, which is easier for them in their daily routine to incorporate? Anything like that?
Yes, so of course, taking formal training is important. So that's one part of the preparation, where you take some formal training from an expert trainer who's going to guide you on the structure of the exam and kind of train you to excel in the exam itself. But there are a lot of steps you can take to improve your overall soft skills. As simple as watching English movies, right? Today you're going to places where they might have a native accent. So today, if you're going to the US, watch American sitcoms. You'll get used to the accent. You'll get used to understanding that accent. You'll learn also about the culture of the place. You learn about slangs that are commonly used. So watching movies, watching sitcoms, irrespective of the country you're going to, can help you a lot in developing your overall communication skills. I'm a big advocate of reading the newspaper, right? So read as much as you can, whether it's newspaper, whether it's books. So again, your vocabulary is improving, your overall reading ability is improving. You can read faster, right? Like sometimes people take a lot of time to read because they're not used to reading so much. But once you start reading consistently, your speed at reading also will improve. So these are some of the things I can advise them. Also, talk in English as much as you can, right? So when you're communicating with your friends, when you're communicating with your parents, try to speak in English all the time. So again, your language is improving overall.
So it's a day by day process.
Yes, I think everything that you do around you can have a positive impact if you're taking the right steps.
Chetan, once upon a time when I was trying to go and study abroad, I was really confused whether I should give my GRE or GMAT or SAT. What are all these exams and are they even essential?
I think you didn't make it because you didn't find the right consultant.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll give you some clarity. Each exam has a purpose, and depending on the country course, the exam could also vary, right? So GRE is typically required only for the US and a few top rank universities across the globe. But majorly is the US university they're going to ask you for a GRE and GMAT as well. GRE typically needs to be given for STEM courses, which is science, technology, engineering, and maths. So if you're looking at STEM oriented courses, GRE is preferred. And if you're looking at business courses or management courses in general, then GMAT is preferred. So generally when a student is applying for a program, on the program entry requirements, he'll be able to clearly see whether they require a GRE or a GMAT. And then accordingly, he can take a decision what exam to give, whether GRE or GMAT. Then SATs are typically for undergrad courses. So students who want to go for an undergrad program after their 12th is when SATs are required. And SAT also is an aptitude test which is predominantly required for the US. So it's only the American universities that ask for an SAT. Most other countries would not require an SAT. So again, a lot of students get confused which exam to give, and they're not clear that there are countries that don't require this exam, and sometimes they kind of hold themselves back. अरे ये exam के लिए कौन prepare करेगा? I can't go abroad if I don't give these exams, so let's not go abroad. So I want to clarify that there's a massive myth that GMAT or GRE for postgrad and SAT for undergrad is absolutely mandatory. That's not the case. In fact, today even a lot of American universities are giving a waiver on this. So a lot of American universities are also accepting applications of students who have not given these entrance exams. So yeah, don't restrict yourself thinking that the exam dena hi hai. Without the exam also, there are a lot of possibilities for students.
Okay, and for courses that are outside of the science part of it, so these exams then are not really essential.
GMAT is for management courses, typically for MBA programs and certain management courses. But anything which is non-science or non-STEM then does not require any of these exams.
Wow, I think this is definitely a big tip because like you said, the fear of that exam might stop so many dreams. Chetan, students who are preparing for GRE, GMAT or SATs, what is the kind of prep they need to do and how much time should they invest in it?
Sure. Let's break it down into three parts, right? So firstly, GRE, GMAT require very similar preparation. What's one very important point for students to note is that in their 12th standard, they should take maths because this is a very maths heavy exam. So if they've not taken maths, they will struggle with this exam. So we recommend that if you plan to go abroad for a master's program and you want to give the GRE, GMAT, make sure you're taking 11th, 12th maths for sure because it'll give you that base that you require for preparing for the exam. So GRE, GMAT would, depending on the student's aptitude, require between 3 months to a year. It is not an easy exam. It is a difficult exam. It requires time, dedication, resources for the student to prepare. So we highly recommend that they should contact a specialist who can train them on this because again, it has very specific areas where the student needs to prepare, which would have not been covered in his undergrad program or in his schooling. So it's outside of these things that he has learned that he has to go and take in that extra lessons to learn something new to prepare for the exam. Similarly, GMAT, GRE, I would put it in the same boat. With SAT, because it's an undergrad student who needs to give the exam, the preparation time increases a lot more because they have to take care of their regular studies as well. So normally once the student has completed the 10th standard, we say at least 1.5 years prior to the you going abroad, start preparation for the exam because you'll get enough time to prepare for it, and then you may get an option to give multiple attempts also. So today if you give the first attempt and you don't get a desired score, then you have some more time to prepare for 2-3 months and then give a second attempt to get the desired score. So for SAT, I would say at least 1.5 years in advance, and for GRE at least 6 months to 12 months in advance.
And again, you spoke about mock tests. So is that also important when preparing for these exams as well?
100%. So there is a lot of content out there which is published by the people who conduct the exam. So ETS is the body that conducts the exam, and they have a lot of their own content published where students can give a full length mock test, which is an actual simulation of the exam. And a lot of people will be able to give you a score as well. So if you're taking training with an XYZ institute, when you give a mock test, they'll also give you a projected score that, okay, as per your mock test performance, you're standing at this score. So mock test will play a very important role. I think when the students start their preparation, within the first 1.5 2 months, they should give their first full mock test to understand where they're lacking, what components they're not scoring well in, and then they are focusing more on preparing on those areas. And it also is a big validation for them where they can track their own improvement. So if I've given one mock test after 2 months, then after 3 months I'll give it, do I see an improvement? After 4 months I'll give one more mock test, do I see an improvement? So they can track their own scores and see are they improving or not. And once they get, say if they're targeting I'll take an example of SAT. If they're targeting a score of 1400, once they're getting 1450 to 1480 on their mock test, then they have the confidence that yes, I can go and give the exam and achieve a 1400 ka score.
Absolutely. I think that confidence is coming through a very strategic method of studying. So that would definitely make a difference.
Correct. And what mock tests also help you with is they help you get used to the structure of the exam. Again, it's a timed exam, so you have to answer the specific question in a specific time. So it's helping them with the speed also, and a lot of students obviously are nervous about entrance exams. So the more mocks you give, the more confident you are also.
Right. It's the mental conditioning as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The one thing I want to ask you about is, we have a fear of exams, and now this is a global level exam.
Right.
So how should students build their confidence for these exams?
Purva, I think a lot of people, a lot of students and parents particularly have a fear of these exams. They tend to compare it with the Indian entrances, right? Like the JEs and the other medical exams that the students need to give, which are equally difficult, I would say. But the scoring opportunities are very limited there because the number of students that are giving the exam is much more, and the percentiles that are required to crack the exam are much higher. That's not the case with these exams. The preparation is required, but it's not rocket science. It's not as difficult as people make it sound. A lot of institutes will make it sound difficult because they want to sell their training programs. But I think if a student prepares early, does it with certain amount of dedication and commitment, there is no reason why they cannot score really, really well in the exams. So they should not have the fear. There is no special preparation that they require because it's a global exam. I think regular training, regular practice, some level of commitment, and having that clear aim that this is the score I want to achieve will get them there.
Okay. And one last question I had was, how much weightage do these exams have on your final application letter, or you getting that right university? How much weightage do these have?
So it totally depends on the universities they're applying for. Like I said, predominantly the aptitude test would be required for US and certain ranked universities across the globe. So yes, I would say 30 to 40% weightage is given to the entrance exams, and it's a percentile play, right? So the higher your percentile, the better are your chances. So an absolute score will not define whether you fall in that percentile or not. It all depends on that year's pool of students.
Right.
So sometimes the 1400 may cut it, sometimes the 1400 may not cut it. Right. So higher the percentile, the better are your chances. And for the proficiency tests, they don't have an impact on your admission process per se, as long as you meet the minimum entry requirement. So every university will say we need this score. As long as you get that score, it doesn't matter whether you get a higher score or not. It may not impact your admission as such. And those are a minimum requirement that you have to have those scores to get into the university. Otherwise, even if they give you an admission, they'll give you a conditional admission that you need to meet so and so score in your proficiency test. Only then we'll give you an unconditional offer.
Understood. Any last tips or advice for students preparing right now?
Don't have fear, right? And if you're fearful about giving the exam, explore alternatives. There are plenty of countries, like I said, and universities that don't require a lot of exams, whether it's a GRE, GMAT, or an SAT. So today, as a student, if you're fearful of preparing for exams and you don't want to put yourself through that pain of preparing for it, then explore options, and there are plenty of options out there. So A, no fear, and B, if you have fear, then find alternates.
Okay. Thank you, Chetan. Thank you for being on the Big Leap today.
Always a pleasure.
I'm sure that the students are learning so much from you every time we are here with the new episodes. Before you go, I want you to like, share, and subscribe to this episode. And if you want us to go a little bit more deeper into these entrance exams, especially GRE, GMAT, or IELTS, so I'm going to request you to write that down in the comments below so that we can get more experts for you on the episodes and they'll solve a lot of your doubts. So write about that in the comments and like and share this episode. Subscribe to our channel. It's free and it'll help us a lot. Thank you.
Logistics play an important role because in case you mess that up, your dream could become a failure very quickly.
The entire education loan journey is now a digital journey from end to end. Due to the abundance of so many financial lenders in the system, what used to be an elitist dream of sending your kids abroad for foreign education, now it has become a reality for the middle class and the lower middle class people also.
Overall, I've seen that time and again, like 2 students going abroad to the same city, to the same university, but they have a overall different journey altogether.
See, mindset to sabka hota hai, Apoorva. A lot of students are aware that this is their big shot and a big opportunity. But a lot of them don't realize that it's a massive hustle once they reach there. And it's a huge change for them as well, right? From the culture, to the weather, to the food, to the place they're going to stay, rules and regulations, everything is different.
I get calls from parents asking that what utensils we should carry or whether my kid will get a bed sheet or not. These are some small questions which these parents or the kids are actually, they want to know.
They're worried about.
They are worried about because that's a new country for them.
Students do not give the due importance and time to think about foreign exchange, even though it comprises a major portion of their study expense abroad.